Hey girly pops, welcome back to Her Nature. And today we're talking about why we need to chill the fuck out and stop making the outdoors seem so scary and go get it, girl. Go enjoy it because hiking alone or being outside alone is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves as a woman. And it's slept on. We're freaking ourselves out and we don't need to. Okay. I started hiking back when I was in college and I didn't have any friends. So I would go by myself and I would straight up like just learn every trail in my area. And I had a lot of moments where I had to turn around or learning lessons along the way. But I truly feel like going on adventures alone has taught me so much about myself and made me a better person. And now that I have my son, I take him hiking alone all the time and I just throw him on my back and it helps us connect so much. And so I just want to share like some tips on how to feel confident on the trail and also reassure you that sometimes the fear isn't as valid as we think. And it's culture. Okay. I remember this one time I was in college and I went on this trail that I would always do. It was 10 miles round trip. So I was like about to be at the top. So I was like 4.5 miles in. And I heard this sound in the forest that I've never heard before. It scared the fuck out of me. I was like, what is this? It sounded like this. I don't know. It sounded like a breathing, like huffing, like a mammal with big lungs. So, what did I do as I was hiking along? I fully convinced myself that it was either a wild cat or a bear or some form of a large mammal with giant lungs that was either dying or giving birth. So, I was like, oh, once this thing has its baby, if it knows I'm around, it's gonna attack me. Any wild animal is just rabid to attack humans, apparently to the internet. And so I gotta get the fuck out. So I go racing down the mountain. It took me hours to get back down. And this was before I had my son. I finally get back home. I'm doing all this research like, what was that noise? And it was a grouse. It was just the call of a large bird. And I didn't get to see the top of the peak because I freaked myself out. But that's what we do, right? And it's for a valid reason. We have a ton of fears about like wildlife or crazy people and just safety in general because the world has told us that we need to constantly be afraid. And it takes away so much power from women and all the gifts that going outside can give us. And that fucking sucks. So I don't know. I've just been assessing a lot over the years how much of my fear with these things is from reality versus actual culture and social media and people just being paranoid. We are taught as women to fear independence because it keeps us small. Ladies, this is a sad reality, but women are taught to fear independence because it keeps us small. If we're going outside and we're empowered and feeling strong and confident, that is a huge threat to like the government, people of power who want to take advantage of women's weakness. We are easier to control, easier to be sold to. Hello, beauty industry. We are easier to be boxed in and taken advantage of as women when we are not in our power. And it's time that we put a stop to that and start looking at the facts, okay? And one thing about going outside as a girl is that everybody has an opinion about it. And one time I posted on my Instagram story a few years ago asking like what people were doing on the trail to protect themselves. And there was so much mixed advice like you need to carry a gun, you need to carry bear spray, watch out for bears. Bears are like so scary. Literally just because they're big and they have teeth. They're not trying to attack you. I've went on hundreds of hikes and I've literally seen like 3 bears in my life and they were minding their own business. So I think we're freaking ourselves out. Everybody has an opinion, and it can be so overwhelming to be like, what do I do? Like, what is the middle ground? What makes the most sense for me? And why am I so scared? The reality is that the wilderness is one of the safest places to be on our own as a lady. There are a ton of statistics that show that your chances of being a part of a violent crime as a lady outside in public land is literally 0.0003%. 0.0003%. That is so, that is such a minimal number. That is actually 3,000% less likely than being a victim of a crime in public spaces that are indoors. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm more afraid of going to the mall. There's this whole debate right now about like, if you were a woman and you were outside, would you rather run into a man or a bear? And everybody says a bear because a man would probably attack them. And it's like, I'm sorry, but the chances of that are so low either way. Whether it's a bear or a man, why are we making going outside as a woman so intimidating? We don't need to be doing that. What's scary to me is running into a man in an alley or a bear. The vast majority of people who you run into on the trail are minding their own business. They're having fun just like you. They're trying to recreate and enjoy going outside just as you are. Of course, there's risk with anything, and there's a small percent that you could be a part of a scary or dangerous situation when you get in your car to go to work for the day. There's that chance when you meet a new person. There's that chance when you go on a date or when you go on vacation, right? The only reason why it's scary to go outside as women is because we're just not familiar with it. Okay. But what I find is that anyone that's out there recreating are focused on their own adventure just like we are. They're trying to have a good time, they're not trying to hurt anybody. And kind of crazy to say, but like, even if somebody was to hurt me outside intentionally, worth it. I've had so many adventures, and the small risk that you would find in any situation, but that small 0.0003% risk is ultimately worth it for me to reap the reward of everything that you get, being able to go outside and make those memories and have those moments. Like, maybe the reward wouldn't be worth it if you're going out to get drunk with friends, right? But to hold yourself back from experiencing what is so in our nature, to truly touch grass and be connected to Mother Earth, there is nothing like it. And we can only control the things that we can control in life. Nothing is going to be a zero risk situation. You get to choose if you're going to freak yourself out about it and sit at home all day in your safe place and then be fucking depressed, or you can decide to empower yourself and build confidence through practicing doing what's uncomfortable, but in your nature. There's no guarantee of safety, but there are some things that help me out. Okay. And I'm going to share them with you right now. Number one, knowledge is power. Doing your research, not being a dumbass. If you're going to go on a trail by yourself, you should be researching that area. You should be looking at maps. You should be looking at trail reports, not only from a year ago during this time to see like what the weather kind of was like and what the trail conditions were, but also trail reports of this week or yesterday if they're available. I love using the app All Trails for this, or for me, because I'm in Washington, I love using the Washington Trail Association app to look at recent trip reports. It helps me understand, like, if a tree is down, if the trailhead is accessible, what is the road like? What has the weather been like? What are the snow levels? What do I need to make sure to pack? Do I need to bring bug spray? Knowing your surroundings and what to expect is the number one way to empower your intuition and your knowledge. And I really feel like that happens before you go. Doing a bunch of research. I also love like going to a visitor center if I'm in an area that I'm not as familiar with, or even stopping by a coffee shop and talking to the locals and asking them, like, hey, what's up? I'm going to do this trail. What do you think? Have you talked to anybody recently who has done it? Most of them have done the trail or they're familiar with it if it's in their own community and they can help give you a little bit of advice. And then, of course, bringing the 5 essentials. A true trail diva always brings the 5 essentials. Number one, navigation. That is a map, a Garmin, a app, a compass, a GPS. Okay? Something to be able to know where you are when you're out there and not just relying on your phone. You also want to bring hydration, duh, but not only a water bottle. You want to bring twice as much water than you think you will need. And if you're going on a longer hiking trip, you want to bring something to give you extended amounts of water, whether that's a purification tablet or a water filter. Having a little bit of knowledge of local streams, lakes, what are the water sources looking like if you're going to be out there? Okay. Food and energy. So, snacks, meals, everything that's going to keep you strong. I've done this before where I've tried to pack light and just bring like a granola bar and like some goldfish crackers. And I have had some really sketchy situations. I remember I was hiking with this girl who was like a badass backpacker, and I was trying to minimize my load when I was backpacking, like to try to take a lot of the weight off. I was cutting off the end of my toothbrush and like really removing anything that could be removed to try to minimize my weight. And she told me, she's like, Maddie, don't fear the weight. You're a backpacker. Like, if you aren't strong enough to carry enough food to sustain you and more just in case of an emergency, you're not fit enough to do that trail. So just keep that in mind. Like, not only do you want to bring food, but energy. So, like gels, gummies. I love carrying, like, if it's not too hot, chocolate covered espresso beans and then popping those every couple hours to help keep my energy up. But yeah, especially for longer hikes, you want to make sure that you have enough food to sustain you. Clothing and weather protection, be prepared for sudden changes. When I first had my son, I went on this hike that was 10 miles and it was flat. But when I got out to the lake, I was 5 miles in, a rainstorm happened. And I was not prepared for that. I did not bring any rain gear. And I had the worst time coming back down. I realized like I have to start running down the trail to get back to the car because I have my new baby. He was only like 3 months old, and my husband and I were panicking, running down. My baby was wet. I was wet. I was wearing a crew neck. My baby's screaming. So I like to try to keep him warm, put him on my chest, and I was breastfeeding him. And he was under my crew neck. I had my boobs out running with my son breastfeeding, like, and popping off every couple seconds to scream. It was terrifying. It was one of those moments where I was like, if I even had a fucking trash bag right now, that would have literally saved me from getting my crew neck sopping wet and having like this terrifying fight or flight experience. So make sure that you're prepared with layers, sun protection, sunscreen, sunglasses. Okay. Even things that you won't expect, be extra prepared. Even if you think you're going to be warm on the trail, bring an extra puffer and throw it in your bag just in case. And then the last of the 5 essentials is safety and emergency gear. So you want to bring a first aid kit. You want to bring a headlamp or a flashlight. I've been there too, where I'm coming down in the middle of the night and have to use my headlamp. And I truly don't know if I would have made it back down in a lot of cases if I didn't have that source of light. I would have probably used my phone. That would have been really embarrassing. I would have looked like a really stupid basic bitch, but just anything that makes you feel safe. So that could be like a gun, that could be bear spray, it could be pepper spray. You could bring a whistle. a bear bell. There's lots of options depending on where you're going. Okay. But I think the main thing is confidence and talking with locals, educating yourself beforehand, really knowing the trail before you do it adds a lot of confidence, but it also adds richness to your experience. When you know a little bit of like history of the area or local fauna and flora, you can kind of point it out and connect to it. I really do think that it helps you not only feel safe, but help you feel connected to that trail and be able to experience it in a different way. The whole point of safety on the trail is so that you can be present, right? It's so that you can enjoy it. So how do we find the balance between connecting to the trail, enjoying your experience, but also being safe and not stupid? I think that being prepared is big, and being a gearhead, having all the right stuff, of course, it's important to be prepared tactively. But your intuition, girls, is your biggest safety tool. Sometimes when you're over preparing and obsessed with having every little item, it takes away from being able to look around and actually focus on why you're there. It's a hard balance to find. But I was listening to this Joe Rogan episode one time. He had this guy on. They were talking about how there was like this guy's trip and they all were hunting. And I think they shot like an elk, hung it up over by the creek, and how they all were camped out for the night and they were cleaning their guns and having a little bonfire and having some beer. And a bear came up on them. And instead of shooting the bear with their guns, they all scattered. And one guy, I think, picked up his hiking poles and tried to like scare the bear away with the hiking poles. And I'll never forget that story because it just is so representative of like sometimes we get lost in things that make us feel safe, but are we actually paying attention to being tuned in to our surroundings and making smart decisions? And to everyone who carries a JBL speaker on the trail, I'm talking to you. Turn it off. Nobody wants to hear that. And look around. Enjoy the experience and pay attention because there might be a bear around the corner. When you start to practice these things and get outside and feel like that is such a more aligned space where it just feels right in your body. And it starts to feel weird to go to the grocery store or in public spaces and you're looking around, you're like, what even is our world? We all should be outside more. It really changes things. It gives you so much more confidence that is so natural. And we are meant to be that way as ladies. We're meant to be intuitive creatures. We're meant to develop ourselves by experiencing nature and learning lessons that it has to share with us. The only reason why going outside is scary is because it's unfamiliar. It's less familiar than walking down the produce aisle or going to the bar. Okay? But it's all about feeling more familiar, and that comes with just doing it. Solo hiking has completely changed my relationship with myself, and there's been so many times where I've done something alone and gotten back to my car and I just drive away blasting the music and just thinking like, fuck yeah, I did that. What other thing comparatively do you gain so much confidence from as a woman more than hiking a fucking mountain? It really shows you how strong and capable and how resourceful you are when you're able to problem solve and learn about these basic instincts and skills that we are meant to have as girls. Being able to hike alone has given me so much strength in myself and knowing who I am as a woman, but especially as a mom. It has given me a bond with him that you can't get from watching cartoons on Sunday. We're able to look at the world in a whole different way. When there's a log down in front of us, we're able to, look at it together. And I ask him, like, what do we do? Should we go over? Like, should we go around it? Oh, there's a river here. How are we going to get across? These are things that women have been doing with their kids since the beginning of time. And it's so recent that we aren't experiencing these moments with our children. Let's bring it back, girls. By showing my son that I can do these things, I'm showing him that he can too. I hope that he has these same hobbies and wants to go out and explore the world when he's an adult. And I hope that he encourages whatever woman comes into his life to be able to do the same. I'm sorry, but as girls, we love a man who sets up the tent and we can just chill out, right? But we should be able to go enjoy these things without anybody else. I don't want to have to wait on somebody else's schedule or setting up a girls' trip to be able to go experience the basics of life. Going outside is a right and a calling that every single woman should be able to experience and to be able to do confidently. If you've been thinking about hiking alone this year, this is your sign, Diva. This is your sign. Go for it. It's not as scary as you think. Do your research and pick a trail that is super accessible and popular. Usually, the popular ones are easy to get to. There's a ton of people around in case something happens, and they're not the hardest trails in remote areas. So, choose something like that. Choose something that's just easy peasy and build up that confidence. Pack the 5 essentials, research the trail, and once you finish that and it's completed, you will feel so empowered to do the next one. And by the time you know it, you will be the one going to all the remote, fun, unique trails that are a little more off grid and being a total pro at it. This is a lost skill. People need to spend more time alone, period. And people, men, women, whatever, they need to be spending more time outside in natural areas, more, period. As long as you are tuning into your intuition, your biggest safety tool, you will be just fine. You will be just fine. And this only comes from showing yourself through practice that you can do it, giving yourself confidence through actually trying. Feeling connected to the safety in your own body when you're alone outside as a girl takes a ton of practice, learning weather patterns, different terrain, what to expect, when to turn back, when not to, when to relax. Okay, that's when intuition comes in. I cannot wait for hiking season. I'm already building out my list of what I want to do this spring and summer. Let me know if you decide to go on a solo hike this year. I want to hear about it. I love talking about these things and recommending trails. So hit me up. I'm on Instagram at hiking is hot. And thank you so much for listening.